Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AX webinar, where we're going to be talking about our new release of product books. We'll give you some intros and some more information as we go by. Just wait one more minute just to see who else joins. Cool. Okay, that should be good. Excellent. So anyway, like I was saying, welcome to our webinar, where we're going to be talking about the product books launch. Just to give you a bit of a tee up in terms of what we're going to be looking at today. So we've headlined this as the next evolution of consultancy delivery. So, and that's what we think we're launching with our product books launch today. It's an evolution of our platform that we've been working on for over a year. For those of you who don't know who the TheAX are, we're a software company that's developing a platform that's going to enable consultancies to make this leap from where consultancy is today to this AI-enabled future. There's going to be three of us talking today. Just a quick introduction. You'll get a bit more detailed introduction as people talk. There's myself, so I've got a deep background in both consultancy and also startups in terms of SaaS and product building. Got Rachi. Rachi is deep in consultancy, ex managing partner of Gartner, and he's going to provide a bit of expertise, insight into what we're doing in the marketplace. And then Frank, for a fellow founder of mine, he's the brains behind the organization, putting the platform and the technology together. So he's going to take us through a little bit on the product a bit later on. So just very quickly, we're going to just generally with the running order, we're going to start off with talking about the consultancy market, the why are we building this thing in the first place. We're going to move on to talk about specifically AI productization today. That's the what and the how. And then we'll move into the quick intro demo of the product books. Now, we expect it's going to take about 45 minutes today. It's going to break into two halves, really. We'll do the sections 1 and 2 as the first half, and then 3 as the second half. If you've got any questions, just put them in the chat, and then what we'll do at the end is we'll have a Q&A session, answer any questions you've got before we do a wrap-up. Cool. Okay, so let's get started. So first thing, consultancy evolution. So this is why we are doing this in the first place. So I think everybody realizes who works in consultancy, there's this big shift that's going on in the marketplace. So what we're going to talk about within this webinar is this shift from billable days, where consultants are selling their time, to much more scalable IP system enabled consultancy. So evolution in consultancy has been around for forever. It's always been changing. So we shouldn't be scared of it. The difference now is that we've got an accelerated period of change. And it's a shift from where we used to scale consultancy in the past by throwing people at it. Now what it's going to be about systems, IP enablement. The good news for everybody, really, we feel, is that this is still about consultants. It's going to be enabled and scaled by AI, but it's about consultants. So that's the vision that we're going to be talking about. So the first thing to talk about really for us is that, when you look at what change is going on in the industry, it's this big pivot point that we feel is happening in 2026, and all the data and all the observers in the market are pointing at that as well. So this coincides with the change from traditional consultancy declining, but in line with a greater use of AI by clients. Now, what does that mean for consultancies? So the first thing is that, in the last 70 years, what consultancy has focused on is this projects and frameworks. But that shift that we're going to be seeing is going to be much more in terms of how do you productize consultancy, how do you use platforms, and how do you enable things with AI. So this is a big shift that's happening. So just want to bring Rachi in on this at this point. How do you see this shift happening, Rachi?
Hi there. So, as a fellow consulting leader and business owner, the way I see consulting going forwards is that well, we're actually going to go into it in more detail in a slide further on. But essentially, I think the advent of AI and chatbots means that individuals in a consultancy may be subscribed to many, and there's a danger that that IP is going to be lost to those many chatbots as part of this. So that's why there is a need for a platform to store and run your assessments independently of whichever subscriptions your consultancy may have as part of that. And that's, I think, the significant sort of turning point here, because otherwise everyone's going to be relying upon all of these AI assistants, and the danger is they're going to be your IP is going to be lost to that.
Yeah, definitely. So this is quite a fundamental shift, and what we're going to talk about today is that really stress the point that this is not about AI chatbots. When we talk to people in the market, we see a lot of, I'm using ChatGPT, I'm using Gemini, etc., etc. But fundamentally, that is not what this shift is going to happen in 2026. So let's dive into that a little bit more detail anyway. So on this evolution front, just to outline where we've come from. Now, the market since the 1950s has been, with the evolution of consultancy, has been constantly changing. We've introduced methods, digital tools. We start to productize things with maturity models, etc. So that's a natural evolution that's been happening in the marketplace, and we'll look at this in a bit more detail. But the big switch that I think we found was in 2023 when OpenAI released a chatbot, which suddenly gave people access to AI. It didn't invent AI, but it did give people access to it. Now, with that change, this is where we've been leveraging things within our platform to help productize what already existed. Now, going into 2026, it's going to be a natural evolution that people then come to much more of a platform established, access to consultancy, and it's going to change the way consultancies work. And then if we try and project that forward even further, again, we'll talk about this in a second, the natural evolution goes to what we think is something called consultancy as a service, much more integrated services through technology from the consultancy and the client. So that's the evolution that we'll talk about. We'll come back to this in a bit more detail and explain what that actually means and what we're doing in the product for that. Okay, so this is where we're playing in terms of the TheAX. So productization. So let's look at productization. So in terms of productization now, I don't know about you, but we see quite a lot on LinkedIn about productization. Some of it is really, it's the future. Some is demonizing productization in consultancy, as if it's going to kill it and it's not the thing to do, etc. So I just really want to be clear, from the beginning, really, creating a definition of productization, and this is the productization definition that we're working to. Now, this is about creating a structured, value-creating offering that solves a defined problem, which is repeatable and measurable with measurable outcomes. Now, that shouldn't really be scary for anybody in consultancy because that's what we're trying to do anyway. It just means technology can help us do that better. Today, that means, therefore, that what we're trying to do is to package expertise as a consultancy together with our methods, tools, and our technology, which is the key point, which is changing, and together with data. So those things start to become a product that a consultancy can deliver. So it's not taking the consultant away. It's not about removing the consultant. It's about how the consultancy can work much more efficiently in solving a customer's problem. So let's get that right from the start. We shouldn't be scared of this. So in simple terms, what productization it enables using platforms such as the TheAX is is it turns this traditional model where knowledge is in a consultant's head and it's delivered by individual people. Every engagement is bespoke. So a much more standardized and AI-enabled system where knowledge and IP is curated and captured. So that fundamentally means that if we get this right in the marketplace and in the industry, we can start turning fundamentally unscalable things that are dependent on humans, human hours, to scalable solutions which augment consultants. So again, it's not about replacing those consultants. So that's what we see when we're talking about productization. Now, if you're going to turn a consultancy into a productized consultancy, there's these three things. There's the human, of course, which is at the top, and that still remains. And then there's the AI. Humans using AI like ChatGPT is not, as I said, the solution. Clients can get that for $20 a month. You can't deliver that as a solution to the client. So that's where the platforms come in. So our platforms like the TheAX are that link that enables you to use AI to augment your consultant. So that's what we're aiming to deliver. So if we look at this in a bit more detail in terms of the actual functions that happen, up to the 1950s, we looked at the market in terms of the genesis of the market. You've got an individual with their expertise. It's their CV that sells. Then we start to develop those frameworks and custom tools. That then leads to how do we create structured, repeatable assets. Now, this is pretty much where the market ends for a lot of consultancies nowadays. This is really hard work to get to that point. A lot of consultancies have moved on from that, though, and they started building maturity models, benchmarking tools and data, and then that allowed, again, an evolution to a productized consultancy. But that's really, really hard work. I mean, I used to do it in my consultancy, where I had teams of product managers and teams of researchers building product diagnostics and maturity models. So what has really changed is the evolution of AI. So when we enable that piece with AI, suddenly you get two things that happen. You get a lot faster, accelerated development of products because the AI can assist you to do that. And this is something that Frank will show you a bit later about what we've got within our platform. But the second thing, the delivery of those things start to be a lot easier as well. So that means that every consultancy can shift to that point. But at the same time, what happens is that because you put this into a platform, you end up with data being accumulated, and also an operating system that gives you access to AI. So that's really where we've got to at the TheAX. Now, if we project forward for 26, we're moving into client dashboards, giving clients access to reports, to information, maybe running assessments themselves. And then that will impact on the evolution of consultants' roles, because you're providing a different kind of service straight away. But fundamentally, what we are also working on next year is then evolving this into what we call consultancy as a service operating system. So that's that platform that enables the consultancy to deliver in this AI world. Now, just to mention on this, what we're doing from January is we're looking for a cohort of consultancies that might want to work with us on this evolution, be the first to guide what this technology looks like, but also the first to use it for their clients. So if anybody's interested in that, reach out, contact us, and we can talk further on it. Okay, so all of this, though, really leads to the ultimate thing, is that, the logical conclusion is that with this kind of engagement, it starts to shift consultancy to this like subscription as a service type model, which is fundamentally changing. It's a logical evolution, both from a client's perspective, but also from the perspective of the consultancy. Your consultancy is much more valuable if it has subscription income rather than episodic project income. And it's also much more value because it collects data. So this is how we see the market. Now, like I said, we'll come back to this in the new year. We'll have a webinar specifically on consultancy as a service, but this is how we see the picture. So today, where we are with the productization, these are the building blocks that we've already got in place. Fundamentally, within our platform, it's built around maturity models. So if we can enable maturity models with AI, which we have done, we end up with a process where the AI can work on benchmarking, it can work on collecting data around those benchmarks, and it can create on road mapping and visualizing where people need to be. So again, Frank will show you a little bit more of this in practice, but this is a fundamental building block of what we've done. So how does AI really impact a consultancy, or will it impact a consultancy? Now, as I've said, it's not really fundamentally about chatbots. It's about how you build this into the application layer. So if we look at the process of consultancy, the first point that I think we'll see this change is in the acquisition side. Now, everybody is probably engaging with AI already in terms of how it can improve marketing. It also improves things like lead generation through lead magnets. But through that pre-sale cycle, AI will enable people to capture information on their clients very rapidly, very quickly, and get to the point where they've got a proposal. So this means that rather than pulling expensive consultants off of engagements, this work can be done quite rapidly, lower cost, much more accurately. In the discovery side, what we're looking at here is a fundamental shift in terms of how you can collect data, how you can analyze it, how you can create roadmaps, maybe run workshops. And this area, it will impact by maybe reducing consultant time by up to 70%. Delivery, in the delivery side, we're looking at much more how the AI can enable better planning, more specific planning, which leads into eventually the measuring of the outcomes. Again, the productization means that you can demonstrate what the change has been. You can give a measurable ROI back to your clients. And then lastly, what we're looking at is that using AI-enabled platforms will enable much more of a customer success management feel to the engagement, where the AI will know what's going on with the client, will know where the issues are, what's worked, what hasn't worked. And at the end of that, that will enable more upselling, which then leads back into the cycle of assessments. So that's a really, really fast walk through of the areas where AI is going to impact on consultancy. But we show this really to just start the conversation for people to move on from we're using ChatGPT, therefore we're AI enabled. It's not about that. This is the type of model where AI is going to fundamentally change things. So with these changes going on, the question is then how is this going to change the inside of consultancy? So just want to hand back to Rachi at this point. So Rachi, can you talk us through what you see as the fundamental change is going to be with inside the consultancy?
Absolutely, and Rob, if you don't mind pressing the builds as we go through, that'd be great.
Sure.
So we've already stated that the market is shifting, and more clients are demanding what I would call faster insight, measurable impact, and continuously improving outcomes. As pretty much more the deliverables they want to judge consultancies on. How have you done? Or what impact have you made? What difference have you made? And the intent of this slide is to go through three strategic shifts that the TheAX empowers us to make. And the first one is about rewarding contribution as well as hours. And essentially, we need to unlock the full genius of our top people. The AX provides a collaborative platform where your experts codify their knowledge that captures how they go about assessing clients against consultants' experience of goodness, best practices, established standards into repeatable high margin assets, which end up as rapid assessments, benchmarks, as we've already said, data-driven reports. So with the AX, the equation changes from billable hours sold to reward our consultants for the products they build as well, and not just the time they bill. And this collaborative approach drives reliable recurring revenue streams by monetizing, in my view, the collective intellectual property. The second point is hiring for impact, not mass. And essentially, this is about the old pyramid model of consulting delivery. Essentially, it's inherently inefficient. Scaling complexity just by adding headcount, it's also a margin killer. So the AX automates and shortens the heavy lift of discovery. And essentially, it frees up our best minds to run high impact teams and leaner ones. And what I like to say about the AX is the project will have more budget to focus on. So what does that mean for us and for the client? And how do we get them to change rather than expending huge amounts of effort just getting to an answer 42? So the AX becomes a force multiplier, and consultancies will focus on hiring high skill density, true subject matter experts and system thinkers. And then consulting sales and marketing can be powered by the rapid, compelling productized offerings that we've already talked about using the AX platform. And because the AX ensures client tracking, customer success then becomes a central collaborative output, not just an afterthought. And the third point is about continuously driving value and capturing ROI. I've already mentioned the clients are becoming more and more demanding about the impact of consulting. And the AX allows us to transition from the sort of classic one-time delivery to more of a lifelong client value and engagement model, and providing measurable ROI, because the collaborative platform automates the engagements we've always wanted to build in to delivery: scheduled reassessments, continuous impact measurement, automated follow-ups, all shared with the client, and all able to be delivered through the AX. And this is how we protect our margins as well. And in effect, then the renewal strategy for sort of shifts the way in which we manage clients. It's no longer based just on relationship. It's driven by undeniable, proven ROI, because the AX quantifies for the client every year this, and it turns every client relationship into a continuous revenue stream, and that's what we're after. Robert, back to you.
Thanks, Archie. Thanks. So that's the tee up. That was the why we're doing this in the first place. What productization is and how it operates, etc. So what we're going to do now is give you a preview of the AX product books. Now, before we go into this, just again a little bit of the concept within product books, just to tee that up a little bit more. So firstly, what do we do? What are we trying to do? What we're trying to do here is that, going back to the earlier slides that we had, is about how you can build a product around maturity models, with data collection, with repeatable assets, etc., within a platform. So that's the first big part our platform does. Now, the starting point for this really is about your knowledge and expertise. We don't have that knowledge and expertise that you do as a consultancy, but we can help elicit that from you from the platform and build it. The second point about productization, going back to our definition earlier, is that we really need, what is that clear problem that you're trying to solve with that specific product and knowledge, etc. So again, that's an input that we can help elicit from you or help build with you, etc. Obviously, we're not trying to replace your product strategy, but we can definitely support you taking that from you and building your product. So the second step that Frank will show you in a second when he gives you a demo will be we'll take that information, we'll curate that within in the platform, and that enables that with AI, and so that's the starting point. Now this is a really super fast process. We're not talking about this taking months. We're talking about this taking hours, maybe days, with some elapsed time involved. So you can move quite rapidly from where you are today to building out this AI-enabled database. Now, the second stuff that happens is that, how does then the platform take that information and start building assessment products from it? These are the data collection that's going to interview, as it were, individuals, or help you as a consultant run through an interview and collect information. So once you've built the product in the product books, the next stage is obviously to run that. So from that, you're going to be able to collect the discovery information from your clients, be that automated or face-to-face. The two things will work, be that one-on-one or in a group environment where you're collecting information from a lot of people. But fundamentally, what that then starts to achieve is that because this is within an AI-enabled platform, you're basically feeding AI models specialist knowledge. Is the context for the client? Who is the client? What are they doing? Where are they on the maturity models? Benchmarking data that maybe you've aggregated and accumulated on past engagements, etc. And also your product proposition. Yes, excuse me, I'm just full of cold today. Sorry. And your product proposition information. Why are you doing this product in the first place? So this ends up really with AI, not just as a chatbot asking it a question about what it knows, but your knowledge contextualized in terms of the client analysis and advice. But it also builds your own IP, because as you engage with the client and gather information, you can improve your models, you can improve your data, etc. And it's something of value then for the consultancy. So with that contextualized information, though, that then feeds back what can we do with it? Generative AI can then allow you to build out many different kinds of assets. It could be your marketing collateral. It could do things like targeted comms or product recommendations for specific clients on the marketing side and the proposition side. And on the knowledge side, we're talking about benchmarking and diagnostics, etc.
Robert,
So
Robert, sorry to interrupt. Your screen is frozen at the input of this AX product book concept slide, so you might need to reshare it.
You're also frozen as well.
Yeah, you could try just turning off your video, Rob, and the slides may unfreeze. Okay, hopefully Rob will join us again, but I think what I can do now is go straight into the demo, as Rob's kind of teed it up for us. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and do that. So I will share my screen now, and I'll also turn my camera off so everything streams correctly. But just before we do that, here's the platform here on my screen. I will just also do a bit of teeing up, as Rob likes to say. So I'm going to demo the new product books feature. And what product books allow you to do is to turn your consultancy offering into a productized consultancy offering. And it does that in 4 steps, which I'm going to demonstrate to you today. So the first is building your proposition with the AI proposition builder. The second is taking that proposition and building a maturity model, which is like a structured framework. The third is to create assessments which assess capability against that maturity model. And the fourth is to generate reports which are personalized and on brand for your consultancy. So I'm going to show that now today. I'm going to use a pre-recorded demo. So I will pause it throughout to touch on main points. And I'm going to take on the persona of a wellness consultancy. So that's the example I'm going to use today. So I'm just going to turn off my camera and then start the video. So hopefully you can all see this. So I'll hit play. So I can see some of my products books here already, and I'm going to go ahead and create my new employee wellness product book. So there are a couple configuration options that I can do with my product book here. But the main thing I'm going to do that Rob touched on is upload some of my existing IP. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Somebody, I'll just pause. I think somebody's just talking. If you just mute yourself. Thank you very much. We'll have questions at the end. So please hold on to your questions. So I've uploaded some existing IP, and I'm going to come to this first tab here on the product book, which is the proposition. So that's that first step I talked about. So building your proposition. So that's what you do, who you do it for, and the outcomes that you create as a consultancy. So I'm going to use the proposition wizard here and answer a few simple questions. Very straightforward. And you will notice that on the right here, I have the AI available to me. So this can help me through the wizard and suggest things that I can either reject or go with. So at the end, I can see all of my answers, and I can use the answers from that wizard to generate a proposition. So that's what I'm going to do now. So at the end, I've generated my proposition. You can see it here on the right. So that's essentially what I'm doing as a consultancy, who I'm doing it for, and the outcomes I am creating. I'm then going to just go back a second so you can see that. I'm then going to go to this next tab here. So you can see I'm moving along the tabs at the top. I've done the first step, which is the proposition. And I'm now moving to this next tab, which is the maturity model creation. So I'm going to go ahead and create my maturity model using the proposition I just created. I'm going to align that with the proposition, the maturity model that I'm creating, and go through some simple questions here again, another wizard, create my levels, and add my categories as well to the maturity model, all with the help of AI. So previously, this would take months for a consultancy to do. So you can see I've done it here in minutes. I'm going to generate all my definitions here. So you can see we've got a nice matrix-like structure with the levels across the top and the categories down the left-hand side. And I can go in and regenerate those and change what the AI has created for me. So really, really quick here. So now I'm moving to this third tab along the top, which is the third step. So we've done the proposition, the maturity model, and now we're doing the assessments. So the assessments are like interviews that you would traditionally do with your clients. And those can be one-to-one or group-oriented. I'm going to create a template here, which is reusable throughout the platform, and some guidance for the AI here. I'm going to choose a subcategory of the categories, a subset of the categories that exist in the maturity model for this assessment. And I'm going to move on to the question generation. Here we go. I've pre-generated these questions, but I can go through, edit those, regenerate some of the options. There's multiple different types, single choice, multiple choice, yes, no, open-ended, and our AI is able to deal with all of those. I can also do this completely manually, by the way, so there's no need to rely on the AI here. At the end, I can update and move to the next step. And on this step, I configure my AI interviewer. So AI is going to be taking and helping the interview process. So I can do some configuration here, as well as add some content, some introduction and closing messages as well. So now my assessment is ready and I can use that for my engagements. So it's reusable throughout the platform. So that is the beginning of step 3, is creating a template. And now I can use that template to start an engagement. So I'll just show you what one of those look like now. So I'm going to show a group assessment. So a group assessment is like a group interview. So a one-to-many interview. I'm going to take assessment responses from a group of people and then collate that and do group analysis. So here is an example right here of one I created earlier. And you can see this analytics tab here. So these are responses that have come in and the analytics that I have so far on this assessment. You can see notes here on the right and the AI analysis on the left. So the notes, other consultants may join in and add their overview to this analysis. We've also got heat maps and level-wise distributions, and all of this analysis is just suggestions from the AI. We don't have to accept any of this, but a lot of the heavy lifting has been done for us. I also may want to go a step further here on the assessment analysis and open Ask TheAX on the right here. So this is our agentic AI consulting assistant. So I can delve deeper and ask for further analysis. And that's available at any point in the application, that agent. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch hats for a second. So I'm now going to take an assessment as a client. So we've seen creating the assessment, and I'm now going to show you what it looks like for one of your clients to take that assessment. So I'm going to copy the link here and open it in a new tab. So this is what your client will see. As you can see, it's an on-brand assessment here. And I'm just going to answer the questions that we created in the previous step. Going to go through one by one, and you'll see on the right we have something here called an AI assistant. So that is something you can make available to your clients in the assessment, and it can help them answer their questions. And that is completely controlled by you. So another open-ended type here. And we'll just go through all those questions. So as we come to the end, the analysis will be done and the client is presented here with this analysis that is generated immediately. So we can see the score at the top, which level they got, as well as some suggested improvements and analysis at the category and dimension level. So that is the third step of the process. So we've done generating the proposition, creating the maturity model, assessments from that maturity model. And the last step now, which I will show you, I won't show creating it, but I'll show you what it looks like for your client, is the report generation. So you can see here over on the right, there's a button, View Reports. And as you can see, this creates a nice, branded, personalized report for your clients, which is the final step of the process. So I've got my images, my branding, my logo, etc. And that's all personalizable. Cool. So that is the demo. So just to remind us what we saw, I'll turn my camera back on now. So with the product books, what we had was 4 simple steps to productizing your consulting offering. They were generating your proposition with the proposition wizard, creating a structured framework for that called a maturity model, building assessments which assess capability against that maturity model as the third step, and finally generating personalized on-brand reports. And now I will pass back over to Rob.
Thanks very much, Frank. I actually got back. Yes, it wouldn't be a good webinar without lots of people being sick and not being able to talk properly, and also technical problems, you know. So anyway, we've got through that bit. Anyway, so thanks very much for that, Frank. Now, just coming back to what we're looking at now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to some question and answers. Just before we do that though, just to give you a bit more of an update. If you want more information on what we're doing in terms of product books or in terms of the AX in general, obviously contact us. There's details on our website, etc. For new customers, we're also providing what we're calling an AX 30 sprint, which is how we get you working and operational with a fully AI-enabled product in super fast times. So we've got some incentives for sign-ups before the end of the year, which we can share with you. But this is literally something, it's going to cost you 2 days of consultancy time. 1 day of your consultancy time to pay for the project, another day of consultancy time to be engaged in it. We'll do the heavy lifting and get you enabled onto the platform, etc. For our existing customers, we will be making the full release for this next week. There's also going to be from Zoltan a webinar which you can sign up to, with much more detailed training as well for next week. So we'll share the details with the existing clients after this. So anyway, so let's head back. Questions and answers. So Ikram, I think you were monitoring things coming through. Was there any specific questions that were coming up for us?
Yeah, we've got a first question from Maurice. They've said, is the IP containerized, i.e. only available for you as the owner, or does the AI also use AI for training response services?
Cool. So Frank, do you want to take that one, or shall I take that one?
Well, I guess I should take it, shouldn't I, as head of engineering? Yeah, to use your phrasing, it is containerized. We do not use any of your IP for training, and all of the information that you are using within the platform is just for you, and that can be deleted at any point. So yeah, none of the information is being sent to public LLMs or being used for training purposes or being stored past the point that you require it for the purposes of the TheAX application. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Brilliant. So we've got Michael has put his hand up as well. So do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, hi guys, thanks for that. That was really helpful. I just wanted to be a bit old-fashioned and talk rather than type, so bear with me. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions actually. What's interesting about this is the way in which clients could ultimately self-service around this. And I know that's maybe a bit further ahead, but I just wondered what thoughts you had about beyond getting the kind of doing the assessment, getting the report, how might clients self-serve in terms of accessing the IP that's in there? Or is that primarily what you're thinking about, is them doing the assessment, getting the report?
Yeah, so I think this is going to be part of that evolution that we look at next year with that cohort of consultancies that we're trying to put together, etc. Now, we can say logically what might exist. The question will be, what do clients want and what do consultancies want to give them? The types of things that we've got in our mind already in terms of the client self-service stuff is firstly, at the point of assessment, when you deliver an assessment to them after you've collected data, etc., rather than just giving them a presentation, they could have a link to a dashboard where they could look at those results. They could use your AI to ask questions of that, etc., as follow-ups. Yeah. So that's a simple step that can be done. You could even get into the point where the client can actually access the assessments themselves and run them themselves at intervals, etc. And then when you extrapolate that over the relationship with the client, then if they're running one assessment today and another one in 6 months' time to see the change of it, they might want to see that in the dashboard. They could see information on projects. They might even see information on how their capabilities have changed over time in terms of graphs, etc. So there's lots of ways it can be delivered. I think we've got quite a few ideas on it. What we end up doing, I think, will be guided by the people we work with in the first quarter of next year.
Yeah,
actually,
Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
Sorry, Michael.
No, I was just going to say, I think this is at the heart of what you're doing here, because it really challenges what the role of the consultant is going forward. And I'd much rather be on the front foot of that, trying to work it out, than waiting till it's done to me. So that's what's behind my question. Sorry, Ramsey.
Well, okay. As I'm ex-Gartner Consulting, one of the big revenue streams from Gartner is around repeat assessments, and building that in and having that managed by the AX year on year is a potential source of continuing revenue for your consultancy. And it's something that transfers it, as I said, from a one-off engagement into a continuing engagement with that client. It turns you into far more strategic a relationship. So, and I genuinely believe that's what the AX will be doing for consultancies going forwards.
Yeah, I think it's great, because what it does then is challenge the consultant and the advisor to be thinking ahead of what the next step is, or where they're really going to be adding value beyond turning the wheels on the assessment process.
Absolutely.
So and there will come a point where clients are already kind of self-serving anyway, because they're just doing it through ChatGPT, which is not as valuable. Okay.
And the thing is, this will then store all of the responses from each of the different stakeholders involved, and it can then start doing. You've got the data then going forwards year on year. You can see how that evolves. That's really powerful.
Yeah. I've got one more question, but if we don't mind, but I think Alan's got his hand up.
Yes, I was just wondering, is there any support for workshops and sort of person-to-person interviews?
Yeah, so I think there's those two methods in consultancy that you want to do. So firstly, on the one-to-one interviews, etc. What we would recommend is that you create one of the products in terms of like maybe a one-to-one assessment, etc., and that can guide you in terms of collecting the information as you talk to people. We have built the product though to be able to take open text answers and transcripts, etc., and be able to assess that against the maturity models. So that's one step that we'll be looking at in Q1 next year. Can we just take it, for instance, a transcript of a meeting that you've had, where it analyzes the questions that have been asked and the answers, and then automatically creates the assessment for you as well. So going forward, we'll be doing a lot more on that. In terms of workshops, I mean, I think that's really where one of the real powers lie in terms of group assessments against maturity models. And I've used them in the past in the old-fashioned way, where we've had macros and spreadsheets and analysis, etc. But you can collect the data really, really quickly, and then you can get teams of people to talk about the answers, get a contrast of where different people lie, etc. Identify blind spots that they might not look at, etc. So those workshops become really quite creative in terms of getting to a point where you get everybody on the right page, and then you've got a roadmap that comes out of it, etc.
And just to add to that, sorry.
So just add to the question. So
go ahead.
In terms of the one-to-one, would you be expecting to host? So if you're doing a call like this, would you be expecting to host those interviews so everything is in the platform? That's one. And similarly for the workshops, have visual whiteboards and group sessions hosted within the session. So rather than, for example, doing something on Miro, getting people to take all the stickies off those, download those, and then upload those, get those analyzed, could it all be within the platform?
Yeah. I think that would be the nirvana for us, really. I think immediately we can provide results with external applications linking into ours, etc. So we don't necessarily, for instance, need to host these interviews within the application. We can just integrate with other products already doing that, I think, on that front. But definitely the whiteboard situation, I'd be quite excited to be able to do that. I mean, some of the things you see, for instance, with the proposition builder and the maturity model builder, interactive questions, gathering data, which then creates an output. You can very much see that in a whiteboard type environment, collecting sticky notes or etc. would mimic that to be able for the AI to get an immediate assessment for you. So given enough time, enough money, enough customers wanting that feature, I would be definitely keen to do that.
And Alan, I was just going to add, the discovery process in any assessment can take an inordinately long time, especially around gathering data and information. And if you've done that before you then get to the workshop, you can then focus on the so what. Okay, so what does this mean? How does this now help you? And that is really powerful. And by having the TheAX run that for you, you can come full on to that workshop as part of that process.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we already do that sort of thing, but should we say hand crank the AI
Yes,
to gather
exactly.
data and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So I can see the benefits of putting that all into the platform. I think
Cool.
with those external integrations, as seamless as possible is the ideal.
Yeah.
You know, so if you could scrape the white, so at the moment the way we use the whiteboards is somebody in the background will take everything off. We'll have a short break, and then they'll run some very quick analysis in the background and ask some intelligent questions of AI, which works reasonably well, but it does depend on how well they've been listening, should we say?
Yeah. Oh, we do a similar thing in our workshops as well, by the way. You know, so yeah, it's we're gradually getting to that point where it will happen within the AX platform, and because that also has your knowledge in and the road mapping functionality and analysis functionality, you can imagine you pretty much instantly get, we've run the workshop, here's the rough roadmap, let's agree it, that's done, etc. Without any gaps in between. Cool. And any other questions just before we?
Yeah, I think Michael had another question as well.
Okay, Michael, sorry.
Just a very simple and straightforward one. Can you edit the reports that are produced?
Yeah, definitely. There's full editing ability, etc. It works on two bases. You know, with the reports can be generated as templates in a head of a project, so that sits with the product book, and this is our template that we're going to infill. But when you run an assessment, then you can generate new content for that, etc., or edit it as however you wish before you send it out. The one area obviously that you wouldn't edit it first is in our lead magnet functionality, because that creates a report that goes out straight away, so you've got no consultant in the loop there, etc. But like everything within our platform, what we try and do is have the consultant being augmented by the technology rather than, you know, forcing results on them. So the AI will create things for the consultant to review and to check and to change.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. And sorry, do you mind if I have time for one more question quickly?
Go
Thank you. Just in terms of benchmarking then, because that's obviously always of interest to clients, where do I stand versus my peers? Is that something, how would that work? How would you show a client, for example, where they sit compared to others, or is that something to build in the future?
Yeah, so at the moment within our database, we're accumulating the data from every engagement, etc. So that's with the nod to what we then do with it in terms of benchmarking. So we've got an activity in our roadmap that we're going to be bringing out in probably January, where what we're looking at there is how you set benchmarks within a user interface. So you can say, is our benchmark going to be aggregated based on all of the clients in that particular industry or sector, etc., or do we want to put in a benchmark of our own, which we want to play back to people? So once we've got that part of in the functionality in the system, when you run the assessment, then there will be that benchmarking data that you can overlay against the assessment data that you've already collected. So not only can you say to them, this is where you are on the maturity scale, you can say, this is where I expect you to be, or this is where the average is for your industry, etc. So that's the functionality we're putting on top in Q1 anyway.
Brilliant. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
It's great. Okay, well, thanks very much, everybody, for today. You know, hopefully you found this useful and informative, etc. Like I said, you know, for existing customers, we'll dive in a lot more detail, and Zoltan will take you through some actual training about how to use the new product books release, etc. You know, in the meantime, you know, if you want to contact us, you know, feel free. You know, we're always here. We're happy for a chat, answer any of your questions, etc. And fundamentally, you know, we're looking at 2026 really as really a big evolution in the consultancy industry. So we'd be really excited for you guys to be with us on that journey. Well, thanks very much, Ian. So that's our webinar. Like we said at the beginning, all of the transcript and all of the slides will be shared afterwards. But do come back if you've got any specific questions. That's great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much indeed.